You're watching Today on ENCA on DSTV channel 403. Thank you if you've just joined us. Now, South Africa has the third highest criminality score in Africa and the seventh in the world overall. That's according to the latest 2023 Global Organized Crime Index report. This may or may not shock you, considering the high levels of crime that they've become part of our daily lives. The index paints a worrying trend of mafia groups infiltrating and dominating the country in all spheres of society. Let's bring in our three guests to unpack these different areas where criminality has taken root. Andy Mashaile, former Interpol Ambassador, Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, criminologist at the Tshwane University of Technology, and Michael Bolhuis, who is a specialist investigators. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. Dr. Mashaile, let me begin with you. This is an index, like all index. It's a ranking, it's numbers. But this really speaks about how serious crime has become in our country. Are we losing the fight against crime?
We have lost the fight against the crime, and this crime index, it is a data-driven toolkit for decision makers worldwide and in our own country. And what we are seeing in this report from our own position suggests that there are serious challenges. I'm going to take it from 2019, 2021, 2023, and also using the three cycles, Braden, I can tell you for sure that in the next cycle, if we don't do things differently, we are going to be in a much worse off position.
So the mafia seems to have taken over South Africa. Prof, would you agree with that statement?
Yes, Danny, I agree with that statement because I don't think South Africans were even shocked by the finding or the report, because the report, true reflection of report, should correlate with the crime landscape. So we are not shocked. Indeed, mafias and we know as South Africans that no sector is immune. So with that, we can never. We're heading for position one soon, because if now you talk of mafias, you talk of wildlife, you talk of health, you talk of energy being run by syndicates or being infiltrated by syndicates, we're heading for position one if nothing happens soon, because we do not have time.
We do not have time. Michael, let me bring you in here as an investigator. Where are you seeing the worst crimes? I mean, what kind of crimes are these that are really bedeviling South Africa today?
You know, the three biggest umbrella crimes we are looking at is serious violent crime, serious economic crimes, and serious cyber crimes. So all three of them are linked to the economy. In other words, all these crimes are committed where there's extreme monies involved. So you can think for yourself, if you've got an extreme violent crime, ATM bombings, cash in transit, heists, kidnappings in the multi of millions, these are monies that are completely lost to all South Africans, to us, and to the government, to make this country financially successful. You also see that valuable people leaves the country, and valuable people to the country dies or just steps back and hides in a hole. Cybercrime is so enormous, and all that money in the billions are lost to neighboring countries and all over the world. So this is a very serious combination of arrows that has hit the body. And you know, the body can move with one arrow, and it will be slower, and a second arrow, and it will even slow down more. But when a third or a fourth arrow, like load shedding, COVID, corruption in the government, corruption in the authorities, those arrows have hit us in the body. And it's like the previous participants has said, if the next 5 years there is no drastic change from our government where they really protect and serve and really care about ourselves, because the mindset is there, you can get as much money as possible, but keep it for yourself and don't give it to the poor or use it correctly to curb crime, stop crime, prevent crime, investigate crime, then we're going to have a very different chat in 5 years' time.
You know, in 7 years' time, it's 2030, the National Development Plan, which the government has adopted, but we know that currently it's showing that we're not achieving much, has safety as one of its goals, that there should be safety for all South Africans. And safety is also a matter that's mentioned in the Constitution. Mashaile, let me bring you in here. I mean, in 7 years, not too far away, Mike says if we don't do anything drastic in the next 5 years, we're going to be in a worse off crime position than we are today. We're not going to hit that goal by the NDP in 2030.
But then we are not going to be able to reach that target. The level of fear in our communities, you saw that 83% of the people of the world live in high criminality areas as per the contents of this report that we are discussing. In our own backyard, South Africa, the level of fear, the level of engagement with police, the level of law enforcement officers that are being arrested, tried and prosecuted, as well as convicted because of being involved in crimes themselves. Some of those crimes that we have seen, transnational organized crime, the horns of the rhinos and many of those things, those examples indicate to you that the ordinary man in the street will not want to engage with this police officer because, one, he would not know whether the information that is being handed over or given to that officer will be used for good purposes or will be used for criminal purposes. Now, long story short, Chapter 12 of the NDP says by 2030, the people of this country should be feeling safe and should actually be safe. Now, I can tell you from the few discussions that I've had in the last 12 months, people are scared. The level of crimes have gone up. We saw the last statistics. And you talk to ordinary people in the street, in our own communities, in my own home. People are traumatized because of the crimes that are happening.
Yeah, the level of trauma is actually very, very big. Prof, let me bring you in here. I mean, where are we failing currently? I mean, we got here, we are here. The report confirms what you said is not surprising. But in your view, I mean, as a criminologist, where are we failing?
We failed the minute we don't recognize necessity for paradigm shift. When numbers were telling that we're moving into a completely different direction, we were still comfortable politically to still try to implement policies that talk to a different crime landscape. What is required today is a paradigm shift where even policing itself was designed to police a particular community, which is non-existent now. So SAPS or law enforcement should reflect, and this paradigm shift requires a lot of innovative mechanisms. You talk of technology, you talk of thorough investigation and capacity, because they are still policing a volatile communities with their long-standing capacity issues, lack of resources and corruption. We need a policing that will understand that they need to transform themselves first. They have been having their own internal issues, and those and also political infiltration. All those aspects hinder successful policing. We can't even start talking about our porous borders and all those, because South Africa, the current policing has to also take into consideration undocumented migrant workers and many other foreigners or immigrants. And our policies were not designed to take that into consideration. So we have a misguided policy. Then we need to go back to the table. We need to now to revisit all strategies, because this is not what all these policies, I don't think even the NDP had this kind of South Africa in mind, because it's like NDP is for Botswana, not us. We don't even recognize it, because 30 years, like they said, is in 7 years. And we're not even nowhere near that. So come 5 years, as they said, will be in a different direction. We might even have to abandon it or even be ashamed to mention it or even develop other policies that will supplement it because a paradigm shift is imminent.
Yeah, and that currently the review of the 10-year review of the NPT is not looking good. It's not yet been made public, but it's on their website, and our reporter Muloko Moloto was there on Tuesday when it was unceremoniously stopped, its publication. But it's already there, and it's showing reverse on so many of those objectives. Now, Mike, Prof here is mentioning issue of illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, the question of porous borders. This report, the latest 2023 Global Organized Crime Index report, shows that foreign criminal actors who come from West Africa, South America, China, Pakistan, Israel, Southern and Eastern Europe have found a very lucrative presence in South African criminal markets, especially in the major cities like Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. In your investigations, I mean, do you find that this is a case, that there's been this infiltration by these mafia groups from these countries I've mentioned, which are mentioned in this report?
Absolutely true, and more. Remember, any reports or statistics we see today, you can add at least another 20 to 30%. Our South African statistics on crime is way out. Just for instance, quickly, you don't hear of all the rape cases, the child molestation cases. You'll never hear of them because maybe 1 out of 100 will make a case, and then maybe 1 of 1,000 will get to court. But there are thousands of sexual crimes that are never brought. As the previous speaker has said, speakers has said that there's absolute no trust in the police. There's more jokes and TikToks and WhatsApps and very harming information out there of our leadership that puts them in a spot where they are not at all trusted, respected, or feared. That includes our president, the Minister of Safety and Security, the heads of police, our police. It's a very big problem. There is no go-to people. Regarding illegal immigrants, there's two sides here. One, a lot of South Africans do not mind illegal immigrants because they're hardworking, they want to work. They see there's opportunities in South Africa. They see there's a lot of good in South Africa, and they really want to make a difference and work hard. But a small percentage, I would say maybe 2 or 3%, because remember, 2 or 3% is already quite a big number, will get involved in serious violent crimes, and maybe 20 to 30% will eventually get involved in petty crimes, house robberies, theft, etc., maybe up to 50%. And I'll tell you why. Because crime begets crime. You can come to South Africa with the best of intentions, but if everybody is stealing, some of those that do come to the country will start stealing as well, because it's easy. You can commit it and can get away with it. The other side of this influx into our country is that it's seen, as you have said, a very easy target. We are very vulnerable in South Africa. There are very few enlightened people. When has the president or the police maybe put an hour a day out just to sit in front of a TV camera and speak to the nation and warn them about the slightest, the newest and the latest dangers and crimes? They don't do it. We do it in our projects. You do it as the news and the media. Yeah. If it's not for the media, the whole of South Africa wouldn't know what's going on. The police, our government is supposed to have a channel on TV where everybody can freely go on and hear what is the news and the latest scams. How do you work with money? What do you do in situations where nature or humans or religion or any issues is in a situation where there's a possibility of crime that could be committed? To enlighten, to teach our people and get them informed about the state of this nation. It's just us, the haves. The multi-millions of the have-nots are the ones that are robbed. The clothes outside, their shoes, the bit of pension money, their bicycles. The poorest of the poor are getting robbed the most. And the illegal immigrants has seen that, and they rob 100, 200 people instead of one rich guy. So the ability to commit these crimes in South Africa and get away with it is one of the reasons that the people from the neighboring countries do come to our country and enrich themselves. And they take the loot out. They don't pay taxes. They don't do anything for our country but loot.
Yeah. Andy, let me bring you in here. Michael has touched on this very important matter of people not trusting government and law enforcement agencies. What are the main factors that have led us not to trust them? Andy?
Being involved in some of the members of the law enforcement agencies, being involved in crime, number one, shatters the confidence of the people of this country. I am not.
So are you saying, in other words, corruption that exists in the system is the one that has destroyed or eroded?
Corruption and criminality and being involved in your cash and transit heists and being involved in other forms of crime, just general criminality that exists amongst a few in the law enforcement agencies, including your municipal police, not only SAPS, that creates a serious doubt in the minds of the people and breaks the confidence and breaks the community police link.
And the credibility and reputation, for example, of our government, including the president?
We have seen for ourselves, and social media in general, published print media, we have seen the comments of the people based on the allegations that were printed and that we have seen on social media and the electronic media. People react negatively to the stories, to the Pala story, to the Blue Lights story, to many other stories that have been published. And when you talk to ordinary people on the ground who do not have the information that would make it easy for them, generally react negatively, and they don't have trust, meaning the reputation as well as the integrity is dented, be those stories true or not.
Prof, let me bring you in. Then how do we regain this trust? I mean, we don't have much time. It's getting worse by the day. From this report, you read it, you're thinking, wow, we are in big trouble. So how do we regain this trust? What should be done, especially because the report points out, and I want to quote one aspect, what it points out. It says, the ruling party, and that's the ANC, has used its majority in parliament to block crucial legislative oversight investigations protecting its representatives from corruption inquiries.
For as long as we don't have political will, we're not going to go anywhere, because the policies are going to be used to oppress South Africans. The report have indicated that these criminals network are very interconnected, highly interconnected. Politics benefits from crime in South Africa, and crime is political. So we are still in for a ride. South Africans should just take the decisions themselves to change everything. Otherwise, we're still going to be this way.
You know, I'm just worried about another aspect, because there's only one positive thing that is mentioned in the report, but it worries me, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to ask each of you to comment on this very briefly. On a positive note, the report found that South Africa's judicial system is generally independent, which is a good thing if your judiciary system is independent. But it points out our judicial system currently is plagued by shortages of judicial staff and lack of financial resources, as we know, undermining the defendant's due process rights. And we've been trying to speak, you know, to the Chief Justice. I've tried myself, trying to get him to be interviewed to say, what are they doing to build more courts, to get more resources? Because if this remains with the challenges we're seeing with the growing crime, even our judiciary is going to be susceptible to breaking at the hands of these organized global mafia syndicates. Andy, I can start with you. What do you comment about that?
Then the report also goes to say NPA, some of the NPA officials are seen as corrupt and not trustworthy, and they are prosecuting And this suggests one thing to me, Braden. When we say they are generally independent, we need to take into consideration the whole value chain that includes the NPA in that statement. So long story short, we wish them well, Braden, but the best is not happening at this point in time. Generally independent does not give confidence. They're either independent or not. Generally,
Professor,
yes.
Your view? Hi, Professor Rakubu, can you hear me?
Yes, you were saying?
I said your view about this issue of the position of the judiciary, of the judicial system, which is found to be generally independent, but is facing lots of challenges in terms of resources.
We cannot say generally independent because there are still long-standing issues in that aspect. Issues of corruption within the NPA, issues of capacity as well, issues of maladministration and corruption. And for as long as there's still organized crime syndicates owning certain members of the NPA, we cannot say generally. We are not so bad, however, it's not generally.
Okay. Michael, your view on this matter?
I tell you what we see as specialist investigators, getting a very serious crime, doing all the work, presenting it, or sometimes working with a few, maybe 20% of the cops that aren't corrupt, working hand in hand with them and then presenting it to the judicial system. We have seen it many a times fail. And I must agree with the other speakers that the judicial system is still a slow-go system. It's still very, very handicapped with qualified from judges to prosecutors, and it does not necessarily see eye to eye with the other authorities. And unless the judicial system with the police is both totally, absolutely independent, but working together with government and the public, if those four issues aren't addressed, we're never going to solve crime. If you take one out, crime is going to flourish. Unfortunately, presently, all four are extremely tainted because the public does not want to or trust the authorities. The authorities amongst themselves don't trust each other and are corrupt. Most of them, I've said about 20%, is really willing, able, and want to protect and serve. And, you know, remember, corruption is not just taking money. It means if you're in a position to do a job and you're not doing it, then you are a misrepresentator. Then you are stealing. You are a fraud. If you're a builder and you give yourself out as a builder, but you're actually a mechanic, you are misrepresenting yourself. And that's what's happening in our government. There is no capabilities, proper capabilities, as well as in the authorities, as well as in the judicial system. There's a few. And that's the problem. We need a lot, and we need all of them, and they need all to work together. And then the public will support and stand together and come forward and assist. But unless this happens, I unfortunately don't, like the other gentleman and lady has said, I don't see a change for the better. I'm telling you now, I'm sorry to say this, it's very negative. We are in a downward spiral, and it's going to become extremely worse. And I want to warn the public about this. Prepare yourself for a very rough ride.
Michael Bolhuis, not comforting words there indeed. I thought there could be a silver lining somewhere. Andy, your final words. Thanks, Michael. Andy, your final words in Mashaile?
Braden, we need a co-created policing strategy, policies. We need co-created policies that are informed by all of those critical stakeholders. And secondly, we need to confront issues, tax evasion in the spaza shops owned by foreign nationals, and many of these things. We need to sit down and say, we love foreign nationals who are not committing crime, but those who are not paying tax are evading tax, including our own people in our own country.
Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, final word to you on this very somber discussion, because I was hoping that by this time we could find some silver lining, but it doesn't look likely. Your parting remarks, Prof?
As I previously said, South Africa should look into the crime level and take a bold step and protect its citizens. An eye for an eye to send a clear message that you don't play in South Africa, a paradigm shift, like I said, an eye for an eye, so that we send clear message that South Africans mean business, because it's not like we don't know who's committing crime and how they're committing crime. And we also humbly request political will and desire to protect the beautiful country.
Thank you very much. Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, criminologist from the Tshwane University of Technology, Andy Mashaile, former Interpol Ambassador, as well as Michael Bolhuis, a specialist crime investigator. It is serious. We're on a downward spiral. I mean, if you get a chance, read. Doesn't make for good reading. The 2023 Global Organized Crime Index report. South Africa's position has worsened since this report was first published in 2021. And the specialists, the experts who are talking to us right now, are not painting a very beautiful picture ahead. Please do take care.